question? Mark?
Yeah, kind of one for each, or 1.5%. Bhaskar, in terms of these explaining the higher than expected malnutrition numbers in India, there's been a number of studies recently that seem to claim that this open defecation is the dominant cause for that. Are you all working on that? Do you agree with that? Or where does that stand? One thing would be great if that was true is that then the policy implications of these studies in terms of investments and toilets and so forth. But is that really the consensus? And then percent, just one quick, of that, it's like 10, 12 million tons a year of exports. How much of that is basmati or the others? And then on your small farm, large farmer program, which sounds really exciting. Let's say it works out well, like it could, from what you do. How do you go about upscaling that and downscaling that?
Yeah. You want to answer the question? Let me answer the first. Out of the 11 million ton Indian basmati right now is on 4.5. The rest is non-basmati, and bulk of the non-basmati is parboiled rice. Sona Sabu and MTU 1010 to African market there. The small farm, large field, initially we thought it was a way to push our technology to the ground, but now it can go on its own. The way it's been stepping up, it can go on its own with any varieties. You don't have to have a stress on variety there. Right now I'm negotiating with NABARD to have 100 pilot site only in Odisha. So what we are doing in this pilot site, we are trying to bring 100 villages, farmers from 100 villages to this pilot site. With the first time it was very difficult to convince farmers. But once the other farmers tell, your current participant become your ambassador for the technology. We are hoping that's the best way to scale up when the other farmers are vouching for that, other than telling everything.
You were asking whether we are working on water and sanitation. The open defecation problem. So we are not really working on open defecation to any extent, but clean drinking water is something we are working on in Jharkhand. Sorry?
RCT on open defecation.
That's yet to begin. So there is a proposal to do an RCT on something called the CLTS, a community-led total sanitation program, which was started in Bangladesh but then moved to India, and we are trying it out in 20 villages in Uttar Pradesh, eastern Uttar Pradesh.
But can I just add something? There's really only one credible study on the open defecation and nutrition, and that was done by Dan Spears, and it was done as a statistical analysis. And he did not really include all the other factors in there. If he did, the open defecation part may not have been as big as he shows. It may be capturing a lot of other things happening.
Clarification from Sam.
Yeah.
When you say farmers are able to get higher price, the numbers are given not even MSP, minimum support price. How is it better price?
Yeah, that's very good question. In Odisha, the MSP really doesn't make anything. Okay, Odisha, the average price in actually around Bhubaneswar is 9,000 rupees, whereas the MSP is 14,000, 15,000 right now. Okay, so we are not talking about MSP at all. Nobody is going to buy MSP. Okay, because I used to do cotton modeling, yield forecasting in Texas, and I told farmers what price they should get. When they went to the market, said that the Cotton Economic Research Institute says I should be getting this price, they said go sell it to Cotton Economic Research Institute. So the MSP doesn't make sense. So as long as they're getting what they used to get, or what the prevailing market price, higher than that, that's what we are more worried about that.
Good. Thank you very much. Very interesting papers. Sam, just for information, we are also mapping adoption of improved varieties in entire country. So we have also covered the Eastern India, so we can share. Sure, I can share with you the results. We have also got the similar kind of trend, like Swarna is number 1, and then following Swarna, sub 1 was at the, I think, 8th or 9th rank. So we are surveying around 10,000 farmers, around 200 seed dealers, how much seed they have sold. So based on that, and we are taking pictures of the bags, so to authenticate whether the same variety is being sown or not. So we can discuss that in more detail. It will be for entire country. So Eastern India is already over. I think the one region is that the Swarna sub-1 or sub-1 where you have, this is the incorrect labeling is main cause.
Big problem.
Because farmers are understanding that this is Swarna sub-1 and they are taking Swarna variety. So this is one main region that it is not getting cooked. The second one is that your small farm, large demonstration. So you said that you are talking NABARD for having 105 pilots. So I think that instead of having large number of pilots, IRRI does, it will be better if you initiate some processes. You do 5 or 6 pilots and do some, what are the processes to involve farmers rather than doing more of the physical activity rather than this. I think the processes will be more important to replicate in other parts of India, that particular model. To Bhaskar, it's a very interesting paper. I think I heard correctly, you said bad politics and good policies.
Good policies, bad policies.
Huh? So what I consider that it's a good politics and bad policies. Because you said that $30 billion is the subsidy. And the National Food Security Act came in 2013, just before election of the general election, and it is not very effective. You are giving just 5 kilograms per head of the food to the farmers. So what I feel, consumer, so what I think that is a good politics but bad policies. I don't know your reaction on it.
Yeah, we'll follow up with you. But one thing, the labeling thing, the results we have right now based on the fingerprinting, we know exactly what varieties were pushed as Swarna sub-1. That will be quite incriminating to the government agencies who were doing it. We know exactly what varieties were pushed. It's Puja, Lalat, some of these fairer husk. You cannot push Swarna sub-1 because the husk color is different. Reddish versus fairer. It says Puja, Lalat. These are varieties which are pushed the sub-1 there.
The reason why I use the term good policies and bad politics is because no one wants to ring the bell, right? In terms of, if you were to talk about stopping procurement from states like Punjab for rice and wheat, there's this huge farmer lobby that needs to be kept in mind. Government knows very well that we need to push things towards Eastern India. But the moment you talk to a farmer in Eastern India, he says, well, don't talk to me about vegetables, first give me what you give to them. So I'm going to grow rice and wheat first, and then you can tell me to grow other crops. Now, these are all lobbies, right? We are talking to different lobbies, and therefore, the vote bank politics come into play, and therefore it is bad politics. Otherwise, there's no reason to call it bad politics. The policies are primarily fine, I think.
So bad politics is bad politics from your point of view, not bad
Not
politics.
from politicians' point of view.
Or bad politics from the voters' point of view.
From the stakeholders, yes.
On this apparent contradiction between the data on malnutrition on the one hand and poverty incidence on the other. Poverty incidence seems to be coming down faster than malnutrition. I read an exchange in Economic and Political Weekly about this. And many statistical explanations have been offered for it, but I have two simple explanations. The first is changing labor use, and so declining caloric requirement for work as work becomes more mechanized, as the population ages, as people move off farm. Caloric requirements are actually declining to an extent not captured by the recommended daily allowances. I couldn't be the first to have thought of that. I understand that even after you allow for that sort of story, there's still a discrepancy. So let's suppose that there really is a discrepancy remaining after we allow for the changing caloric requirements of work. What does it mean if there is such a discrepancy? It means that people are choosing to spend their additional income on things other than the things that the nutritionists tell us they should want. Well, a really irritating feature of nutritionists is that they think that the recommended daily allowances are somehow chiseled in concrete, the same for all people, the same over time, and that those recommendations should have absolute priority in people's preferences over everything else. So even if the data are correct, what it means is that households have different objectives from the ones that the nutritionists imply. Okay? What's wrong with that?
You're referring to Jean Drèze's paper, where he looks at the entire calorie debate.
In the Economic and Political
the
Weekly, there have
EPW,
been a
that's where he
whole
came out with.
sequence of papers about this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they're looking at it entirely from a calorie perspective. Well, the point's well taken. But what we are trying to say here is we try to look at the graph in terms of the poverty levels and the stunting numbers. And there we still find the discrepancy. Overall calorie requirements might have come down because of the work profile changing over the years. And that's actually a very valid point. And Jean Drèze does talk about it. But yes, nutritionists are so tied in those numbers, 2,400 calories, 2,700 calories. They don't seem to budge from that. And for them, those are written in stone. So there's no point debating with them. But the moment you start comparing those numbers with stunting figures, you get some stories to tell. And that's the story we wanted to bring up there. But your point is well taken.
Any other questions? We still have time.
Just I was looking your presentation, Sam. It's very interesting. Say if you look at the contribution of crop improvement programs after 80s, 90s, so mostly it has been for most of the crops, but that is particularly true for rice. That has been in terms of non-yield contributions. And there one of the major contribution is basically having varieties which are tolerant to different stresses. And if you look at the, let's say, fluctuation in productivity, rice productivity or paddy products in different ecoregions, even eastern India or maybe upland, right? So that has moderated over a period of time. It's quite stabilized, and that is one important achievement that has been made by the crop improvement programs. But when we look to the adoption of a particular variety for a crop like paddy, so their adoption is governed by number of factors. So it's not just only tolerance to one stress, it's number of things. It has to be, I mean, I hope in terms of productivity it's the same, but we have to look at the other characteristics also, like grain quality, stress to, I mean, tolerance to other kind of stresses. So if we look at that, so that will help in explaining the spread of Swarna Savan, because it's a major development, and it's really, I mean, everybody is really, I mean, why, I mean, just area is 0.4, 0.5 million hectare. Expect, I mean, it should cover more than that. That is generally what is the people just thinking.
Yeah, thank you. When I talk about the flaw tolerance, this integration of a tolerant gene, according to scientists, everything should be remaining same. Grain quality, you know, everything should be same. Yield under non-flooded conditions, everything is same. You are just adding the flaw tolerance on top of a popular variety, Swarna. So initially we misjudged that it should replace the entire Swarna, which is 30% of the area. And you know, that was the judgment error we had because no prior experience of dissemination strategy. That was not part of IRRI's mandate, you know, initially. So it's a very new mandate where IRRI is responsible for dissemination, and I think that's where we missed it. But that's a lot of learning takes place where as we move ahead, we know exactly how important the targeting is, how important extension system is.